And I say, come take your husband. It's completely nude, you know, without dress, nothing, and it's waiting for me. This Lord.
The Earl of Shaftesbury found it extremely difficult to stay with one woman. He might love his wife, but one of his character traits was that he always wanted more.
After the honeymoon, the newlyweds went to live in Cannes. The Earl gave Jamila a monthly income of €7,000. He bought her a brand new 4x4 and the luxury flat. But according to Jamila, her husband soon began to stray. For a while at least, the new Lady Shaftesbury was prepared to tolerate his outrageous behaviour. Members of Jamila's family occasionally came to stay, including her younger brother Mohammed. He had a history of mental illness and had twice been committed to institutions as a child. Like his sister, he used his looks to make his way in life, working as a gigolo on the beaches of Tunisia. He met and married a rich Austrian woman, then moved to Munich. But the marriage later broke down. Mohammed and the Earl got on well. Naima claims they visited nightclubs together.
My brother drive him, he was the chauffeur, he's cooking for him. My brother liked him because he was funny. Anthony said to him, I like you. And we are two men, we can talk, and the women don't understand what men want.
After his arrest, detectives scrutinised Mohammed's alibi. He'd claimed he was in Munich the day the Earl was murdered. He said he flew in the day before and had organised a series of meetings to prove it. But Mohammed's carefully constructed story was undone by his mobile phone records. These showed that while he was in Germany on November the 4th, he returned to France 24 hours later. Mohammed was in Cannes on the day the Earl was murdered. To police, this seemed like clear evidence of a planned and premeditated murder. But there was nothing to implicate Jamila. Then, on the 31st of March 2005, while on remand in Nice Prison Hospital, Jamila received a visit from her sister. Police listened in and secretly recorded their conversation.
I've brought you some clothes so you can fake your mourning in front of the judge. You say you loved him and you'll leave prison easily. But you have to say where the body is. You have to say it. You have to say it.
Naima was clearly telling her sister to pretend to mourn for her dead husband.
This conversation, I forget. I don't know. Because was many conversations we have. And for me, it's like a bad dream, you know.
It became obvious to detectives that Jamila knew exactly where her husband's body had been dumped.
But they will say to me, how do I know it?
You say it's him who told me. Don't go into detail, make a fuss. They have to find the body, bury it. You must say where it is.
Then Naima encouraged Jamila to lay the blame on her brother.
A few words and then you're free. You didn't touch him. You didn't do anything. It's the other head case who did everything. You say it like that. Defend yourself.
S'était présenté comme quelqu'un d'assez passif dans cette affaire.
She'd presented herself as the passive one in all of this, someone who was under the influence of her brother. But we realized this wasn't the case, and she was a lot more involved in this crime. She probably came up with the plan to kill her husband.
The final and most incriminating evidence was that Jamila had paid Mohammed €150,000.
You gave him the money. You gave him the 150,000 euros cash.
You mustn't say that. You mustn't say that.
No, but here, between you and me, among family, you gave it to him.
I gave it to him.
It didn't take a genius to work out that that payment had been for Mohammed for committing the crime.
Police believe this was clear evidence of a plot to kill the Earl. But when presented with this evidence, Jamila and Mohammed would not admit to knowing where the body was. Mobile phone records again proved invaluable to the inquiry. After the murder, Mohammed and Jamila failed to switch off the Earl's mobile. It continued emitting a signal to a phone network hours after his death. And the police were able to isolate it to a wooded area called Vallon de la Rague, 7 miles west of Cannes. It was a huge area to search, but on April the 5th, 6 months after his murder, police finally found some human remains. The Earl's phone was nearby.
Donc le corps se trouvait à l'aplomb de
The
cette...
body was at the bottom of this ditch.
Il était accroché à...
It was attached to a tree stump.
Le corps était réduit à l'état de squelette.
The body was just a skeleton. Some of the limbs had been detached, probably by some animals.
After months in the open, the body was unrecognizable. It could only be identified by DNA samples. Forensic scientists were able to establish that the larynx or voice box had been fractured in 2 places, confirmation that the Earl had been strangled. For the Earl's family, finding the body made his death a reality.
I went to see the place where he'd remained for 5 months. I had to have a moment of silence. I thought it was incredible. You just throw a human being in the bottom of a ditch and you just take the car and go. Well, how do you feel about that? I don't know.
An examination of Jamila's mobile phone records showed that she was in the area where the body was dumped 2 days before the murder.
She might have just been visiting the spot because she felt like it, but it was pretty clear that she'd been there and she thought this spot was a perfect place to hide a dead body.
All the evidence suggested that Jamila and Mohammed had planned to kill the Earl. But would they ever confess?
Murder, revenge, and sex. On trial with her brother, charged with murder.
May 2007, 2.5 years after the Earl of Shaftesbury disappeared, his wife and brother-in-law went on trial for his murder at the Palais de Justice in Nice. Mohammed Mbarak admitted killing the Earl, but he maintained it was an accident. His unstable character showed throughout the trial.
He did lose his temper and begin shouting out at the judge and at the jury and at the press. We were dealing with a rather sinister character, in fact.
Jamila confidently stuck to her story that her husband had been accidentally killed in a drunken brawl. She said the money she'd given Mohammed was to buy a house for their mother. The fact that she'd visited the area where the body was found just 2 days before the murder was, she claimed, a mere coincidence.
Jamila acted in court as if she was the star of the show, looked very glamorous, and acted as if she'd done nothing wrong. It was an incredible performance.
But what emerged was a chilling story of a greedy, calculating woman who was prepared to kill to keep what she believed was rightfully hers. The court heard that when the Earl had first showed Jamila the family estate at Wimborne St Giles, her behaviour alarmed his family.
Everybody was very worried. She was just out to grab. She pointed at the pictures of